Another Dead Teenager, a Paul Turner Mystery, Book 3. Author, Mark Richard Zubro. Stonewall Inn Mysteries. Narrator, Eric Aust. Chapter 4. A block away from the Goldstein home, a clutch of reporters were gathered around several squad cars. The local cops had the street blocked off. Turner and Fenwick showed their identification to the cops on duty. One of the reporters began drifting over, and the others followed. Fenwick sped off before they could overrun the car. At the house, they found the Goldsteins in the same room as the day before. A woman in a red wool suit shook hands with them. She was introduced as the family lawyer, Jennifer Edwards. After they were seated, Turner said, "I'm afraid we haven't been able to find out much today." He gave them an outline of what they'd done. "There must be something," Mrs. Goldstein said. When he was finished, Edwards said, "I've talked with Chief Robert Sart in Connecticut, and after listening to her and what these two officers have said, I'm of the opinion that everything is being done that can be done. The police are trying their best." Turner didn't know if he appreciated or was annoyed by the vote of confidence. Edwards continued, "You need to ask my clients questions that may be painful to them. I've let them know what is standard procedure in this type of case. As they said last night, they wish to cooperate in any way they can. You already know that they were at dinner in Kenosha until late?" Turner nodded. "How else can we help?" Edwards asked. "Who knew the boys were going to be to the game?" Turner asked. "It wasn't a secret," Ken Goldstein said. "I suppose they're friends. I was given the skybox tickets for all the home games by alumni of St. Basil's University. None of them would know whether or not I'd be at a specific game. I often gave the tickets away. I let my son use them once before that time. He took his girlfriend." "Who knew they were going to stop by and talk to the team members afterwards?" "The same people. Who knew they were going to the game, I'm sure. The boys had been talking about the game for quite some time." At that moment, the Douglases arrived. While Edwards was not their lawyer before the incident, she said that she had talked with them and would be acting in that capacity for the moment. Turner and Fenwick asked the same questions of the Douglases as they had the Goldsteins, with the same results. No helpful information. "All day today, we got extremely positive comments about both your boys," Fenwick said. "They were well liked by everyone, which doesn't help us pinpoint anyone who might want to do them harm. Is there anybody you can think of any time in their lives who didn't like them, had a bad experience with them?" All four parents thought for a minute, but when they spoke, it was with weary bafflement. None could remember anything the boys had done that could in any way be connected to murder. After further fruitless probing, Turner and Fenwick left, ran the gauntlet of the press, and drove off. "Going to be a mob of those back at the station," Fenwick said. "Something to look forward to," Turner said. "It's only 9. We got time to look for Goldstein's girlfriend. She's at Northwestern, which is on her way back. She's living in a college dorm. I hope she's around. I doubt if it's too late to visit." "Is it ever too late in a dorm to visit somebody, and when it's a murder case, do we care?" Carolyn Tomei lived in Ingalls Hall on the Northwestern campus. Turner and Fenwick reported to the security office first and then proceeded to the dorm. It was between the drama and film building and the library. A few students lounging in the lobby looked at them curiously as they asked for Caroline. The switchboard operator called up to her room. In a few minutes, she bounced down the old wooden stairs. They sat in an alcove of a room that had wood-paneled walls and multicolored leather chairs. Caroline turned out to have long, honey-colored hair and a slender figure. Her skin was flawless, with only the merest traces of makeup to emphasize the perfection. She greeted them with a cheerleader's smile and enthusiasm. She wore a t-shirt that clung to what even Turner recognized was a figure that Fenwick would refer to as a header. Caroline said, "I heard about Jake. It was awful." "We're hoping you can tell us something that would help us catch the killer," Fenwick said. "I'll do what I can," she said. She tucked her feet up under her and gazed at the detectives evenly. "When was the last time you saw him?" Fenwick asked. "Months ago, at a party. We talked a little. He seemed friendly. I met his new girlfriend." "Why'd you break up?" Fenwick asked. Jake was really sweet, but he was such a kid, really. He cared about sports so much. I enjoyed them, but not like he did. Plus, I was going away to college. He was nice, but I had started to meet a more serious crowd. I had my future to think about. He took it pretty well. I know some of my friends have to put up with some of that I can't live without you crap, but Jake seemed to be okay. He felt bad, so did I, but I knew it was over. Northwestern isn't that far away from Kennecomet, Fenwick said. I wouldn't call it going away to college. It was such a different world. It might as well have been 1,000 miles. You have any enemies that you know of? Anybody with any kind of grudge at all? She thought a minute. Well, me, maybe, because of our breakup, but I don't think I was ever an enemy. I think he got over it. I mean, we talked and stuff after. If I hadn't gone to college, I think we'd have stayed friends. Anybody else? Fenwick asked. She drummed her nails on the leather armrest. I know one guy, gay guy, came on to him at a party. Jake told me about it later. Said he turned him down. Don't know if that gay head was upset or not. You know his name? Ed Simmons. He's still a senior there. Did getting propositioned upset Jake? I'm not sure. He was always so polite to everybody, but he acted a little odd about it. Like, maybe it did bother him, but he didn't want to talk about it. I know gay and straight guys here, and it's no big deal, but who asked, who out? Jake was just a little inexperienced, I think. How well did you know Frank Douglas? Barely at all. He was sort of creepy. How so? I think he was into Satanism type stuff. He wore some symbol pinned to his leather jacket. He said it was for a rock band, but I thought it was some satanic thing. I mentioned it to Jake once, but he laughed and said Frank liked to shake up other kids. She said she never saw Jake wear any satanic symbols or do anything but poke fun at Satanism in a mild way. She also didn't know any of Frank's friends who might know more about his connection to Satanism. When we found Jake, he didn't have his underwear on. Carolyn laughed. Both detectives raised quizzical eyebrows. I shouldn't tell you this, she said. It's a little embarrassing, but, well, go ahead, Fenwick said. When we went on our dates, or when Jake thought it was a big occasion, he would wear his underwear. He told me he wanted to feel completely unencumbered. She laughed again. He had a thing with wearing dress pants, so that no lines showed. His pants would hang without the slightest wrinkle from his hips to his shoe tops. I think he thought it was studly for a while. I did too. Seeing him in his tux at the junior prom last year and knowing he didn't have his shorts on was a little bit of a turn-on then. I think it was just part of his getting used to being a man. Men are funny about stuff like that. But I think he wore his underwear most of the time. I don't think he wanted to undress in the locker room and have the guys see him. He didn't wear any. Guys are funny. He do anything else unusual that was kind of personal that might have bothered him? Fenwick asked. We found several dildos and some leather clothing among his stuff. Like a leather jockstrap and a studded belt? The detectives nodded. Well, she said and looked at them from lowered eyelids. I don't know how unusual this was, but he... This time her hesitation lasted more than a minute. The cops waited as they'd been trained to do, waiting for someone to talk and trip themselves up. Was second nature after this many years as detectives. I'm not sure how important this is. She looked at them, but they waited for her. Well, when we'd start to make love, he couldn't last very long. Most of the time, he, a few seconds after we'd be naked, he'd be done. Did this bother him? Fenwick asked. I think it did. I tried to be nice about it. One of his friends on the team gave him the leather stuff. Said it might make any sex he had more enjoyable. I managed not to burst out laughing. I refused to use any dildo. It was gross. Jake put on the leather stuff once, and it seemed to make him a little more confident, but the next time, well, the old problem came back. I told him the kinky stuff wasn't one of the reasons we were breaking up, but it was. I just didn't want to hurt his feelings. Boys are so fragile. Where were you Thursday night? Fenwick asked. Play practice until late, and then talking with friends until about 2. She gave them the name of the kid who gave Jake the sexual materials. Other than the personal picadillos, she knew nothing helpful. In the car, Turner said, I don't know if I'd be happy or not being dropped by somebody like that. Nobody that beautiful ever gave me more than one look, Fenwick said. They'd never date me. Hell, if I dated somebody as beautiful as she is, I'd probably blow my wad after a few seconds, even at my age. You've got mad. She looks great. She's nearsighted and refuses to wear her glasses unless she's driving. Did that even when she was a kid. I made sure I drove everywhere while we dated. She never got a good look at me before we got married. What did she do when she did get her first good look at you? It's too late by then. We were in love. Kid wore his underwear for his new girlfriend, Turner said, and didn't show her any sex toys. Maybe Carolyn's rejection made him shy. Turner leafed through the notebook for the list of kids who had been interviewed. The guy Carolyn Tomei mentioned as our porno peddler isn't here. He said we'll have to talk to him. Probably means another trip back here tomorrow, but I don't have the remotest faith that these people up here will give us the slightest clue. They got back at the station 5 minutes after midnight. Since they had left this morning, the number of news people had expanded. Even at this late hour, they clustered around Turner and Fenwick's car. The questions were pointed, and the persistence with which they were asked almost irrational. Cameras and microphones were poked and shoved in their faces. This was not a good way to get a quote out of Fenwick. He bellowed angrily when one of the cameras banged into his side. The crowd stepped back. When his animal roar split the night, the cops took the opportunity to rush into the station. The commander met them on the 4th floor. Anything? He asked. Nothing, Turner said. They told him what they'd done that day. You've got 500,000 more reports to go through. The commander indicated the stacks piled on the tables next to the corkboard, which filled an entire wall on the 4th floor. A third of the corkboard was filled with still photographs from the scenes of both crimes. The dead bodies from every possible angle, shots of the entire room in the first case and the surrounding garage in the second. The pictures were silent sentinels of death hanging over everyone who worked on the 4th floor. Turner and Fenwick had seen thousands of death scene photographs. They would go over them shot by shot later. For now, they glared at the mounds of work below the pictures. I had them do some sorting as they put the stuff up here. Evidence reports and crime lab examinations start on the right. I've got you lined up to talk to the Bears players the boys spoke with after the game. You'll be going to tomorrow morning's practice. Uniforms have canvassed a 3-block radius from the scene. Not many people around. They got admitted to the surrounding buildings. Most are abandoned and in about the same shape as the one that murder happened in. It didn't find anything. After the commander left, Turner and Fenwick found 2 chairs with rollers and began at the left of the tables. They pored over reports and commented to each other if they found something significant. When Fenwick got to the medical examiner's report, he pointed to the 3rd page. Killer used a .38 automatic, Fenwick said. Definite confirmation that Goldstein got shot up the ass twice. He handed a copy of the report to Turner. That's why the angle of those abdomen wounds seemed funny to me, Turner said. He was shot up and in, and they came out from the body. He glanced down the form. Shot 6 times total, once in the head. I shoot him twice at the butt. The killer missed the first time. Or he enjoyed the effect and said twice is better. Anything besides the marks on his wrist and ankles that showed that Goldstein fought back at all? Fenwick asked. No traces of foreign matter under the fingernails. Goldstein didn't scratch the killer, Turner said. A rope killer used to tie him was gone. Fenwick said. Killer must have taken it with. Funny. He couldn't get more rope? Maybe he wanted to clean up after himself, Turner said. I like an anal retentive murderer, Fenwick said. Not amusing, Turner said. In fact, kind of gross, if not totally disgusting. Yeah, well, cheap cop gallows humor ain't easy. They worked in silence for several minutes until Fenwick said, You'd think a kid like that would fight back. We do have abrasions on wrists and ankles, but wouldn't he fight when the guy was tying him up? No way to tell when he fought if he did. The room was mostly a mess with his blood, but I don't see anything that showed a fight happened. We were there, and you care to venture an opinion that a fight took place? No. Furniture didn't get tipped over because there wasn't any to move around or bust up, so no proof of a fight. Killer had a gun on him all the time. Fenwick turned a page on the report. He was tied hand and foot, but you'd think he'd make some protest. Maybe he did. He could have broken the killer's arm in 7 places for all we know. Doesn't say Goldstein was unconscious. He knew what was going to happen. Can't imagine knowing I might be dead in seconds. Turner said, maybe one of the first shots had the kid in pain and agony and bleeding, something awful. Turner shook his head. He flipped several more pages. Listen to this. No drugs in either kid's system. Isn't the cliche, if kids die, it's got to be drugs? There it is. It isn't so in this case, Fenwick sighed. Are we agreed on the timing of this? You've got to figure the Douglas kid died first, otherwise you wind up having to control 2 athletic kids at the same time. And you have to drag both kids around town. So, the killer walks up to the 2 kids in the parking garage, Fenwick said. He shoots one for whatever reason and makes the other go with him. And the threat he uses on Goldstein is that if you don't come quietly, you'll get what your friend got, Turner asked. Makes reasonable sense. Is that how he got the kid to walk up all those stairs and down those halls in that abandoned factory? Can't imagine that much carrying of a live, muscular teenager who's at least squirming. Maybe we've got a very muscular killer. They perused the reports in silence for a few minutes. Look at this, Turner said. Fenwick rolled his chair over. They gazed at the sheet of paper together. Goldstein's balls were crushed with the ever-faithful blunt instrument, Turner said. I knew this was going to turn out to be kinky, Fenwick said. I don't like kinky with my murders. I hate kinky. Where's the report on the other kid? They hunted it up and read. No crushed balls or anything unusual, Fenwick said. Just one shot to the head killed him instantly. Good. No kinky. Why do you take the time to crush the kid's nuts? Let's be sure to ask when we catch this creep. Goldstein's murder sure seemed like it had some kind of sexual connection. We got any cum traces? They hunted through the documents. No, Turner said. If not sexual, at least kinky, Fenwick said. Of course. How can you have kinky without cum? If it's kinky, it's got to have cum. I always prefer cum with my kinky, Turner said. Just like you. Are we sure they checked? Where's the fluid report? Here, Turner said. They looked at the lines of print. Only one type of blood each place and no other fluids. Gotta be spit. Sweat, Fenwick grumbled as he reread the section. He slowly flipped through several pages, then said, Hey, check this out. Frank Douglas had a 1-inch by 1-inch tattoo of an upside-down pentagram on his left shoulder. The kid had to be more than dabbling or simply interested in Satanism if he went far enough to get a tattoo. Wonder if the parents knew. Maybe they were lying to us when we asked about Frank being into Satanism. Don't know about that, Fenwick said. But would you know if Brian had a tattoo? We went swimming on vacation last year. He doesn't have one unless it's on his butt or between his thighs. And if it is, I'm not sure I want to know about it. Fenwick shook his head. Kids getting tattoos. Too kinky for you? That is not kinky. It's just dumb. They perused reports for 3 hours. No one else was left on the floor when they decided to call it quits. What's everybody working on tomorrow? Fenwick asked. We've got the Bears practice, Turner said. I'm looking forward to that. We should try to arrive when they're changing clothes. I'm not going to be a part of some erotic crap. That's all I need is you running around with a heart on. I won't be running around with a heart on. I'll just be discreetly peeking at any sexy males. Like I've never had to hold you down when a sexy female wanders into your scope of vision. Not this week you haven't. I didn't figure you for the beefy football player type. I'm not. But maybe a quarterback or a kicker, or maybe a stray pass receiver might wander into view. At least I'll get a chance to look at them up close. You're jealous because it's not a woman's locker room. I'm too tired to be jealous of anything, or to even work up a latch for a naked nymphomaniac. What's everybody else working on tomorrow? Turner checked the charts. Half the damn task force is tracking down leads from people that have called in. No doubt one is the killer trying in his or her own obscure way to confess. We've got reports to write and more reports from others to read. We better get some computer people up here to collecting data. We want to be able to organize things. I'll talk to the watch commander on our way out. He can try and get Blessing and his crew on it first thing in the morning. Several years ago, the Chicago Police Department had sent 3 cops to FBI headquarters to be trained in using a Rapid Start team. Since then, the department had set up its own Rapid Start team. This consisted of computer specialists who could be deployed within an hour to any area or district in the city. They would have laptop and desktop computers, telephone modems, and customized off-the-shelf computer software. They would take all the data collected by the task force and enter it into the computers, categorizing and organizing it at the same time. They would also have access to over 1,000 databases and 4 FBI mainframe computers at regional information centers. These could provide possible follow-up information, especially any cross-referencing of suspect profiles. The watch commander grumbled about the lateness of the hour for such a request, but he promised to move on it as quickly as he could. Turner dragged himself to his car and drove home. He found the house quiet and both boys asleep. He dozed off to the comforting thought that they were trustingly in bed and at rest. Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold: to offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides, and in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.